Rocky Mountain National Park is one of America's most popular and loved national parks. It is located right in the heart of the Rockies in north-central Colorado. It was created out of the efforts of a small town, which would later be named Estes Park, to preserve the nearby wilderness as other wilderness areas in that time period were being devastated by the aggressive logging, mining, hunting, and ranching impacts. In early 1915, Rocky Mountain National Park was officially signed into law. Over the years, the park has grown in size through property acquisitions. Today, the park has about 415 square miles of land. Let's take a look at all of the sights that this park and its surrounding region has to offer. At the east entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park sits the small town of Estes Park. Estes Park sits at about 7,500 feet above sea level and has a population of about 6,000 residents, although not all of those residents stay in Estes Park year-round. Estes Park is a beautiful town which has much to offer. There are plenty of lodging options here, lots of great and unique restaurants, and a quaint downtown shopping area that has souvenirs for everyone. There is a mini golf course, go-karts, and even a giant slide. There are local events in the city park, such as concerts and parades. You might be familiar with Estes Park due to the movie The Shining. The Shining is a horror movie based off of a book by Stephen King. It is about the famous Stanley Hotel, which is located on a hill overlooking Estes Park. The first movie was released in the 80s and is the most famous one. What a lot of people don't know is that the movie was remade as a TV miniseries many years later and was actually filmed on site at the famous Stanley Hotel, where the book was written by Stephen King. I watched this miniseries right before taking a ghost tour of the Stanley Hotel. I didn't see any ghosts on the tour, although I think I did see the word red rum written on one of the walls in the basement. In addition to the mountains, there are also many other sites that draw in the 4.5 million annual visitors. Rocky Mountain has 156 lakes. I visited several of those lakes during my stay. Sprague Lake had beautiful views of the Continental Divide. It also had a hiking path and benches to rest in and enjoy the scenery. Bear Lake offers views of Howlett Peak. Like Sprague Lake, Bear Lake offers a hiking trail as well as areas where you can sit and relax and maybe even have a picnic lunch. The parking area near Bear Lake is popular and is often full by 10 a.m., so plan on arriving early or taking the shuttle. Bear Lake is a good place to branch off and hike to other lakes and destinations within the national park. Leaving Bear Lake, you will pass by Nymph Lake, Dream Lake, and eventually Emerald Lake. You are further into the national park once you arrive at Emerald Lake. Stop here after your hike and rest and enjoy the scenery. In addition to the lakes, there are also 31 named waterfalls to visit. I visited a few, such as Glacier Gorge, Chasm Falls, and Copeland Falls. Copeland Falls is around 12 miles south of Estes Park, but it is well worth the drive out of town. The hiking trail to Copeland Falls is relatively easy and is about 1 mile long. There are other points of interest you can hike to as well after visiting the falls. One of my favorite places in the park was Moraine Park. I actually returned here about 4 or 5 times during the course of the 7 days I spent in Estes Park. Moraine Park is one of the best places to view elk. You are even more likely to see elk here during rutting season, which is in early autumn. I visited during September, so I was able to see a lot of elk. Moraine Park is a large open meadow with sweeping views of the Rockies all around you. Moraine Park is near the Beaver Meadows Visitor Center, which is just outside the southern end of Estes Park. There is a campground here, picnic spots, and places to pull your car off the road to get quality photos of elk. If you listen closely, you might even hear a male elk bugle. Now we move on to my favorite part of the national park, Trail Ridge Road. Trail Ridge Road opened in 1932 and connects Estes Park with Grand Lake by cutting through the national park and up and over the Continental Divide. Also known as the Highway to the Sky, the road climbs well above the timberline to an elevation of 12,183 feet above sea level. Trail Ridge Road is the highest continually paved road in the U.S. With every turn you take, you will see a new breathtaking view. Don't feel guilty if you have to keep pulling over to get a picture or two. The best part of Trail Ridge is the drive itself, so don't be in too big of a hurry over the mountain. My two favorite places to stop were Many Parks Curve and Rainbow Curve. Once you get to the top of Trail Ridge Mountain, you will stumble upon the Alpine Visitor Center. The Alpine Visitor Center is the highest in elevation visitor center in the U.S. National Park System. There is a small restaurant here, a gift shop, and restrooms. Nearby, the Alpine Ridge Trail is a half-mile long trail that leads from the visitor center up the mountain just a little more. It might not sound or look like much, but at nearly 12,000 feet above sea level, it will definitely take your breath away. The view at the top is rewarding. You will feel like you are on top of the world. In my opinion, it is better than the view you have down the hill at the Alpine Visitor Center. Trail Ridge Road is only open for the warmer months of the year, and at the top the weather can change dramatically and abruptly, so be prepared by checking the weather before driving to the top. I didn't continue on to Grand Lake, so I can't speak to the rest of the road, but I've heard from others who have traveled its length that it is a beautiful drive back down the west side. I visited Trail Ridge in September 2020, which is during the time of the Cameron Peak wildfire. The fire was burning closer to Trail Ridge each day. Less than 24 hours after I visited the Alpine Visitor Center, they had to close it down due to the wildfire getting too close. Thankfully, it ended up missing the visitor center. During my visit to the Rockies, I woke up one morning to a pleasant surprise. Despite it having been warm each day prior, Estes Park was blanketed with quite a bit of snow on Labor Day. This was quite a treat. I don't think I have ever seen a more picture-perfect snowstorm than the one I saw in Estes Park that day. The snow stuck to the evergreens and completely covered the grass, so the pictures you could take looked doctored and almost unrealistic. I drove halfway up Trail Ridge Road to get some pictures and video, but was only able to get up to the 10,000 foot level due to the rest of the road being closed due to heavier snowfall, high winds, and the Cameron Peak wildfire inching closer to the top. This snow day is an experience I will never forget. Rocky Mountain National Park is one of my favorite national parks. If you have ever visited there, I'm sure you will agree with me and will want to encourage others to visit as well. When I visited the park in 2020, I had to make reservations ahead of time just to enter the park. I would advise checking to see if you still need to make reservations to enter the park before your trip, in case they are still doing that. Also, make sure to do your research and get a good map and visitor's guide before traveling to make sure you don't miss any of the highlights. I couldn't talk about everything in this video, so there were many great things I had to leave out. Rocky Mountain National Park can be fun for the whole family. Your kids will never forget their visit and will be talking about it with their friends when they return home. If you have yet to visit Rocky Mountain National Park, I would encourage you to consider it. It will be the trip of a lifetime, and I'm sure you won't regret it. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the thumbs up and share it with others. Who knows, maybe we will run into each other in the Rockies someday.